Welcome to another edition of Community Matters. I'm Jim Cameron, still your host and still the program director of Darien TV 79. And you, as a faithful viewer, know that Community Matters is a show where we interview folks about what makes living in Connecticut so much fun. And we couldn't live in Connecticut if it wasn't for this, not this bottle, but what's inside of it. We're talking about water today. And our guest today is George Logan. He is the Director of Community Relations for the Aquarion Water Company. George, good to have you on the show.
Good to be on the show, Jim.
Now, just in the way of background, I did a little research and I found out that you are a trained engineer. You went to Trinity in Hartford and the University of Bridgeport. And you were also a former state senator here in Connecticut and ran for Congress in the 5th District, was it?
That's correct.
As well, too? Okay. So what are you doing in this job, doing community relations, having been a former legislator, or is that part of your mandate?
Sure. So I've been here at Aquarion Water Company since 1992. I started off as a junior engineer and worked my way up to becoming a senior engineer, and I was director of the engineering department for several years. And I wanted to extend my experience in the water utility industry, so I moved over to environmental management. I was the director there for a while, and I also was director of government relations, and that's where I started to get that sort of itch to want to do more for the community. And I decided to run for office. So I ran for the state senate, which is a part-time position. So I was able to do that while maintaining my role here at Aquarion Water Company. So I did that for a couple terms, which was a great experience. I met a lot of folks, made lots of connections, many of those that I'm still using, today in my current role as the director of community relations. And as director of community relations, I work with and deal with town CEOs and public work directors and fire chiefs on many very technical issues and matters, right? Whether it has to do with capital improvement projects that we're doing, or is related to fire flow, or flushing, or issues related to emergency unplanned disruptions and main breaks and those sorts of things. So my engineering background, I can speak that language, understand what those issues are from a technical standpoint, and then my role is to convey that to the town CEOs and working together to make sure that one, at Aquarion is being transparent in terms of what the issues are, and working together in terms of communicating to the public what the issues are.
And this is going to sound like a dumb question, but where does our
Oh,
water come from? I
sure,
assume
sure.
it's mostly rainwater, or do you use wells and groundwater as well?
In Darien, mostly it's surface water supplies, but we also do have some groundwater supplies as well. So, for example, we have our eastern distribution water supply system, and that water, mainly 12 billion gallons of water at our Saugatuck Reservoir, which is way up mostly in western Connecticut, and that flows down into our smaller 66 million gallon Aspetuck Reservoir, and that's in Easton. And that flows to our Hemlocks Reservoir, which is roughly 4 billion gallons. And then we have a treatment plant there that treats the water, puts it in a tank, and by gravity, it goes down the pipeline to towns like Wilton and Canaan and Darien, and even Greenwich as well. We also have some significant groundwater supplies as well. In Westport, we have some ground with some wells. And that roughly 5 or 6 million gallons a day, but that also helps to supplement supply in the area as well. So it's definitely a regional water system, and it's one that we take a lot of effort and resources to manage well.
And I remember during one of the last droughts, and we're going to talk more about the current drought in a moment, but I remember in one of the last droughts, you actually had to run a temporary pipeline down the Merritt Parkway to make up for lack of water in Greenwich. Is my memory correct?
That's correct, right? We had the drought of 2016, as you probably recall, Jim. And I remember that year, in June of that year, I was out at one of our reservoirs. I think this one was in Stanford, and the reservoir was full. We were spilling in June. Then all of a sudden, the spigot just stopped. We didn't get any, very little precipitation, very little rainfall all summer and fall. And as we approached, this time of the year back in 2016, we were running into some real trouble in terms of our reservoir levels. And so, not knowing the future or what was going to happen back then, we made some emergency moves, and Department of Health and the state. We decided that we needed to do something in case this continued, if this drought continued. So we installed large diameter water main above ground along the Merritt Parkway. It cost millions of dollars to do that, and so since then, obviously, we don't want to be in that situation again. So one, we've put more efforts in conserving water, right? Conserving the water that we actually have, but also we've we're in the process of increasing our capacity for the Eastern Fairfield County system, as we call it. So now we are in the process of installing a parallel 36-inch diameter transmission mains. That's a very large transmission main, and that's going through from Wilton to New Canaan and all the way down the line to make sure that we greatly increase our capacity. Again, we're working with the state to be able to do that. So we're in the midst of installing and almost finishing up that line as well.
Are you building any more reservoirs to increase the capacity there as well too?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. Again, when the Eastern Fairfield County system, also known as the Greater Bridgeport system, was developed in Reading and Weston, there were actually villages and communities by eminent domain that were taken over for the reservoir. That sort of thing, particularly here in Connecticut, particularly in the Fairfield County region and area, would be very difficult to do. We do continue our search for additional groundwater sources to help out, but most of our efforts are conserving the water that we have, finding leaks in our distribution system. And as far as capacity-wise, we're doing pretty good. The issue is making sure that we're able to get the water where we need to, in an efficient basis. So we've been concentrating mainly on that. And again, I'm going to continue to stress the importance of conserving the water that.
We're talking with George Logan today, who is the Director of Community Relations for the Aquarion Water Company. Now, what do you do to the water, whether it's rainwater in a reservoir or coming out of the ground? What do you do to treat that water before it comes to us?
Sure. We have about 9 treatment plants, surface water treatment plants throughout our systems. We have one in Fairfield, the Hemlocks Reservoir, also called the Water Treatment Plant. We have another one in Easton. We have an Easton Lake Reservoir. And also in Greenwich, Putnam, and Miamis. And we treat them with the various methods, but generally conventional water treatment, where we filter the water, we add various chemicals like chlorine and those sorts of things to keep the water clean. We follow all state and federal regulations for doing that. Back in the early 70s, there was the Safe Drinking Water Act that really ramped up a lot of the drinking water standards. So we've make sure we keep up with that, and we've been doing pretty well. Every system we have what we call a consumer confidence report or a water quality report. You can go to our website www.aquarionwater.com, and you can look up for your system for your area. You can take a look at what the water quality records data is for your area. We update those every year. They're extensive. There are literally hundreds of thousands of tests that are done every year, and the data is all collected on those consumer confidence reports.
A rather timely question about treating water. Do you put fluoride in our water?
Yes, we do. Yeah, absolutely. I know that's a big talk on the national level, but we are required to currently by federal regulations and state regulations. So yes, we do include low levels of fluoride in our
One of the things that people are concerned about in terms of water quality are things called PFAS, PFAS. What are those, and does any of that exist in our water?
Yeah, these are man-made chemicals that are byproducts of really industrial processes and manufacturing. So, over time, we have improved our ability to test for these chemicals, the accuracy of our testing mechanism. We used to test things at the parts per million level. Then it was, parts per billion, very in a small amount. Now we have equipment that can accurately test for chemicals and compounds at the parts per trillion level. And that's something like, imagine an Olympic-sized pool, and you take one drop in an Olympic-sized pool, and if there's something in there, we can find it because now the technology is there. And then lo and behold, once we are able to test for these compounds at these levels, we've found them at various very low levels, but to be safe and cautious, there are potential long-term effects of these man-made chemicals. And so the federal government and the state have been working together to identify which of these PFAS compounds we want to approach and tackle now. And the EPA has set what they call the maximum contamination levels for these compounds, which are roughly in the area of 4 parts per trillion, so extremely low level. And and certainly we have found some low levels in various systems at Aquarion, and we have taken various steps, to address those wherever we do find it. But
Another thing that
yes,
I said was another thing folks are concerned about are called microplastics.
sure.
What are those, and are they in our water as well?
Yeah, so I am not a particular expert when it comes to microplastics. We certainly keep an eye out for them, but it has not been a huge issue for our water supply systems. Again, our surface waters, you look at the volume of water that we have available to us, that works in our benefit. The watershed, that's the area around the reservoirs that acts as a natural filter. That's like really the first stage, the first step, the first stage of the treatment process for our water. It's just the ground around our reservoirs. And we own a large part of the watershed around our reservoirs, the surface water reservoirs. And we have a source protection crew that goes around to properties that we don't own, whether it's residential homeowners or whether it's commercial owners, like with gas stations and those sorts of things, to make sure that folks understand that they are in the watershed for a public water supply.
Mm.
And we provide information. We inspect those properties on an annual basis. So all of those activities help to ensure that the quality of water as it reaches our water treatment plants is in the best condition that it can be. And we've been pretty effective doing that. We have some of the best water quality, I would actually say the best water quality in all of the nation.
George Logan, our guest today on Community Matters. He is the Director of Community Relations for the Aquarion Water Company. If I'm concerned about PFAS or microplastics or, whatever else might be in the water that we haven't quite figured out is dangerous to us yet, should I filter my water at home, either with a faucet in my kitchen or a whole house water filter? Do you recommend that, or is that really up to the customer's discretion?
Yeah, one, if you have concerns or just interest in terms of what your water quality of the water that supply is coming to your home, again, I recommend that you go to the Aquarion website, aquarionwater.com, and you look at your consumer confidence report, our water quality reports, so you can see specifically for very specific elements what your water quality looks like. We don't particularly discourage the use of at-home filters, but we also don't recommend it as well.
Why is our water so expensive?
Well, I mean, if you look at the other utilities, water is the least expensive of them all. there's no comparison to what you pay a month for water compared to electric or gas and the like. So it's a product that you need to sustain a life. It's at a very low cost, and I guess that's subjective in terms of cost.
But to be honest, your parent company, Eversource, is a for-profit organization, and I believe the latest figures I could find was that the revenue was almost $12 billion, but that's not just in Connecticut; that's the other Eversource areas as well too. Why should a water company be a for-profit venture when you're really providing a public service?
And Aquarian Water Company has been a for-profit organization since its inception. And I would argue that for-profit water systems provide a much better service to their customers. If you take a look and compare whether it's customer complaints compared to municipally run and owned water systems, customers' complaints are less at Aquarian compared to all of our other utilities, particularly here in Connecticut in the area. As far as cost of service, publicly run water utilities are also generally less expensive than publicly owned government-run, municipal-run water systems. So there are lots of benefits to privately owned water systems as well. And also keep in mind, we are very much so regulated, where municipally run water systems are not as regulated by the state, right, through PURA, for example. So we have not only just federal regulations, and we've also have state regulations that all water systems have to abide by, but we have this additional entity that regulates how we're running the water system to make sure we're running efficiently and effectively, and how we set rates as well. So we have that additional layer as well. So there are lots of benefits to customers for privately run, for-profit water systems.
Now, Eversource, your parent, purchased Aquarion not that many years ago, but now it's trying to sell it. If it was such a smart decision to buy, why sell?
So yes, Eversource purchased Aquarion in December of 2017, and now they're looking into selling the water system. I mean, that was a business decision that they're considering and looking at. Purchasing Aquarion was something new for them as far as getting into the water utility industry, and my understanding is that they want to focus more on their core activities related to electricity and gas, and also here in Connecticut, the regulatory environment has been pretty difficult for Eversource, and that's also now spilling over to the utilities, particularly water as well. We are a very small portion of their overall revenues, and again, I think they're looking to focus on their core business model.
George Logan, our guest today on the program, he is the Director of Community Relations for the Aquarian Water Company. And one of the things we want to talk about, because as we record this program at the end of November of 2024, although it rained last night for the first time in 86 days or something, we are in the middle of a drought. And, given climate change and changing weather patterns, et cetera, there's no guarantee that the rains are going to continue or the snows during the winter to help replenish the reservoirs as well, too. Aside from making water expensive and encouraging us to save money by not wasting it, what can be done to mitigate the effects of this drought condition that we're in?
Sure. And a lot of the drought condition has to do with lower precipitation for sure. And as far as the statewide level, right, we're in a stage 2 drought, the risk of fire is also a big issue. And our goal here is to make sure that we are conserving the water that we have, right? The time to conserve is while you have water. So I've got a table here, it's the latest from just a couple of days ago, and it's just showing some reservoir capacity levels. Our Eastern Fairfield County system, the one I was describing earlier, it's at 76%. That's pretty good for this time of the year. Now, the issue is that normally at this time of the year, we kind of fill in the winter and in the early spring, and then over the summer, as you can imagine, water levels drop, right? But by this time of the year, they're either leveling off or increasing, rising. And unfortunately, they're still dropping, not as badly as in 2016, but we would rather be at a more of a leveling off level stage, if you will, for our reservoir levels or filling. And so that's where there's the areas of concern. But we are at a capacity, again, at 76% for our Eastern Fairfield County system that Darien relies mostly on. So we're doing well now. We're not at any of our emergency trigger levels for drought. But again, we're being very cautious. And again, the time to conserve water is while you have it. And we're just suggesting that folks do things at home where, for example, if you're going to wash clothes, make sure you have a full load in your washer. If you're doing dishes, the same thing. If you're brushing your teeth, while you're brushing your teeth, turn off the water. Try to limit yourself in terms of the time you take with showers, and all of these things make a difference.
And I don't know if you know the number, but I remember hearing that the amount of water that's used in Darien for irrigation, as you call it, watering lawns, in effect, is a huge percentage of the total consumption in Darien. Is that the case? If you
That
know
is correct. Yeah. I believe the number is close to half the water, close to 50%. So it's pretty high. And
So we all love green lawns, right?
Yeah, and the issue is, when we design our water systems, right, we have to design them for maximum peak demands, right? So if we're designing our water systems because during the dry season, during the summers, folks are firing up these irrigation systems, it brings a demand a lot higher than what we use just for human consumption or just for our household needs. And that's why, again, we're encourage folks to install smart irrigation systems that don't operate when it's raining.
What about industry? I'm thinking of water-intensive companies like a car wash.
Yes.
Car wash. We like green lawns, we like clean cars, but I feel a little guilty sometimes going to the car wash because I can only imagine how many dozens of gallons are being used to make me happy with a cleaner car. But at what expense overall?
Yeah. Look, talk to the owners of the car washes you're going to. They're paying for the water, so it's an expense for them. So many of them do actually recycle some of the water that they use. So that's a good thing, and we encourage that as well. But it's a savings for them, and there are various manufacturing outfits throughout our systems that also recycle water and use gray water as well, because it's a savings for them.
You also mentioned public safety in terms of making sure that the hydrants work. Um, First of all, how do you know that the hydrants work? Are they tested regularly? And second of all, who pays for that water? Is it the town?
Yeah, so we certainly test our hydrants. We maintain them. We actually flush our systems on a regular basis as well. So that's also part of the process of testing the hydrants. We actually use them for flushing. And most towns and cities pay hydrant service charge. One is for the actual hydrant itself that we maintain, and the other is for fire flow protection. And so most towns pay a portion. Because you can imagine, if we were building a water system just for residential domestic use, we would need a much smaller capacity, much smaller size tanks, much smaller pumps than if we are sizing them to fight, fire, right? For a fire for 3-4 hours. So we upgrade the design of those tanks and pumps to be able to, meet what we believe, and we work with the fire departments and ISO to make sure that we have proper fire flow available to keep folks safe. And that upgrade, those costs are shared with the town. So residents are paying for the water that they use at their homes, and then the towns generally pitch in terms of the cost for the fire flow protection in the town.
And we help pay for that with our taxes too.
Yes, that is correct.
And of course, there is no free lunch and there is no free water.
That is correct.
But there is free water descending from the heavens when it does rain. And I remember a few years ago, you were or Aquarion was in the business of selling low-cost rainwater barrels. Do you still do
Absolutely,
that?
yes. Yes, absolutely. Every year. So come this March, by the end of March, go to our website, aquarionwater.com. It's our rain barrel program. Very popular. It seems to get more and more popular every year. We're encouraging folks to collect that rainwater from rain. Again, what we're trying to do is change behaviors, right, of our customers to make it second nature to want to conserve water and find ways of doing that. And this is a fun way of doing it. We don't make any money on selling the rain barrels. We sell them at cost, and we again, folks order them on our website, rainwater.com, and then we have distribution days in various parts of the system. Whether it's in Greenwich, I think we had one in Darien, another in Fairfield, another in Trumbull, and other parts of the system as well.
Yeah,
Again,
we had one of those. It was a giant. It was like 5 feet tall, and I think it was an olive oil barrel that was
exactly. Even the rain
recycled.
barrels, right, are
Yeah.
repurposed, right? Olive oil, containers. I think they're, somewhere in the realm of 32, 33 gallons. Something, don't quote me on that, but something
Yeah.
in there.
But you don't want to drink that water per se. It's more for gardening purposes, right?
It's for outdoor use. Yes, definitely not for drinking.
George Logan, our guest, he is the director of community relations for the Aquarion Water Company. We've covered the waterfront and then some on a lot of different issues, but I want to give you a chance. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that folks should know about Aquarion?
Sure. Like earlier on, you mentioned that some folks have received these uh, lead service line letters, right? So
Yes.
Aquarian has an effort to update our inventory for the customer side of their service lines. Um, there's been lots of questions around that. I just want folks to know Aquarion's water is safe to drink. We do not have any lead in our water supply or in our water distribution system. The issue has to do with the customer side of the water service line. So a portion of the water service line, that's the line that goes from your house to the main that's out in the street. There's a portion of that water service line that's owned by Aquarion Water Company. That's the portion from roughly your property line, or we call it, there's a curb valve, there's a valve there, to the main. That portion is owned by Aquarion, but the portion of the water service line that is on your property, just as all of the plumbing inside your home, that is owned by the customer. And so this is a federal mandate. The federal government is requiring all water companies throughout the entire country to send out these letters to their customers and to update their water service line inventory. We also have a telephone number, and I don't have the number memorized, but I have it right here. So if you take the survey and you have questions, you can call Aquarion at 866-728-5023. Again, that's 866-728-5023. You can also email Aquarion at lead, right? L-E-A-D, lead, at aquarionwater.com if you have any questions.
But if that line that comes from the main out in the street, the water main, into my house is made of lead or galvanized steel, your safe water may be contaminated on its way into my house, right?
Right. So the galvanized steel service line, the galvanized steel itself isn't the issue, but many times the solder that's used is lead. So that's where some of that concern may be. So even though if you have a galvanized service line, doesn't necessarily mean that there's any lead material in there, but there's the potential that could be there as well. But yes, you're right. And we do things at Aquarion to ensure that we minimize the risk of lead in the customer's home as a result of the customer-owned portion of the water service line. There are certain corrosion inhibitors that we put in the water to it kind of puts a coating, if you will, on the service line, so that even if the service line is made of lead, there's a coating on it that doesn't allow the lead to leach into the water because of this protective coating.
So are you
We
putting a
also
coating on the inside of my stomach too, because I'm drinking that? Or is
this,
that safe? I assume that's safe.
it's safe. Absolutely, it's safe. Of course.
Okay.
And as you know, we also apply other chemicals to the water as well. Everything is EPA approved, federally approved, and safe for your human consumption as well.
So let me play devil's advocate. This is my job.
Sure.
Let me play devil's advocate. I'm old, I'm elderly, and you're asking me to go down into my basement and look at pipes? Or should I wait until I have a plumber come over and say, "Hey, Bob, could you look at the pipes? Because I got this letter here from Aquarion asking me what my pipes are made of."
No, that's absolutely an option as well. We're trying to do things to make it as easy and as cost effective as possible for our customers. But certainly, if you were to call or hire a plumber, if you chose to do that, they would be able to help you without any doubt whatsoever, and then you'd be able to complete the survey.
Should I do a water test at home to see if there's lead in my water?
Yeah, you absolutely can. And if you go to the website, aquariumwater.com, we list a number of plumbers that are certified and licensed to do that. And you choose to have your water tested, you can do that. And again, we provide some names. There's others you can use as well, but just to provide some assistance to do that.
Aren't there at-home tests that I can order through the mail and take a sample after flushing my line and then sending it into them and they'll let me know?
Sure. And again, it depends on the company that you choose to use. But yeah, there are some that do that as well. They don't even have to come out to your home.
George Logan, Director of Community Relations for the Aquarion Water Company. I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. We've covered a lot of information, and in the closing show credits, I'll put contact information down, the websites that you were mentioning as well too, if people want to get any more follow up on what we discussed. So
yeah, feel free to give them my work cell phone as well, 203-395-4610. Again, George Logan, 203-395-4610. Director of Community Relations. And if you get stuck or have any issues with getting hold of someone at Aquarion, please give me a call and I will do what I can.
He works nights, weekends. He's available on call.
Absolutely. I get calls all times of the day and night and weekends and holidays.
I can imagine. George, thank you very much for being with us on Community Matters today.
Thank you, Jim. Take care now. Take care, everybody.
And thank you, our faithful viewers, for watching another edition of your favorite show, Community Matters.